Now, the game finally started to kind of slow down for Desmond Ridder as he got his first win as a rookie in the NFL with the 20-19 win over the Cardinals on
Yes.
Sunday. We were
Mm-hmm.
there to see it front and center.
Yes.
And that's exciting. But there's still that conversation about where he is in his progression overall, right? So we
Right.
only have one game remaining to really have like a quote unquote full sample size for Ritter. And the question is still out there. Now that we're 3 games in, you only got one more. Is that enough for you to say, yep, I think they have their QB1 in 2023? But if not, I mean, are you just looking for a free agent like a QB to compete with him and to keep him honest? Or are you salivating and calling Houston saying, hey, 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 CJ Stroud looked really good in the Benz Saturday night. What y'all want for
Ooh, wow, that's an interesting question. Now, I like how
him?
you posed it because I like how you said in 2023. So the answer to that question in 2023, should he be QB1? He should be able to compete for QB1 in
Mm,
2023 because from game one to game two to game three, I've seen progression each
yes.
game. And that's what you're looking for when you're talking about evaluating quarterbacks because we
Yeah.
talked about the concerns, right, of him
Hmm.
locking in on Drake London. Now,
Right.
granted, we love that he's actually using him because the guy before him couldn't figure out how to get him to rock. So yeah,
Right.
we like that part. That's check that
Hmm.
box. All right, cool. He's actually pretty good. Drake London can play football. All right, we found that out. Right. So, but now, how can you go through your progressions and get elder people with football? We saw him build some rapport with Michael Pruitt. I like on the third down, you strike
Hmm.
throwing that bad boy in there. Right in between his tight coverage, and that's one thing that I said that I really liked about
Yeah,
Desmond Ridder coming in because he has that confidence in his arm and he
indeed.
can get in there. He has the arm strength to be confident in, right? So a lot of times the quarterbacks have confidence in their arm, but they just ain't got the arm strength to get it there. So I think that there's no hesitation when they're talking about like if I need to fire a strike, he gonna fire that
Hmm.
strike, and I think we saw that on Sunday. So
Yeah.
I think that when it comes to now, if he has you saw him get progressively worse,
Hmm.
or he just turned the ball over too much, and like okay, we might need to bring somebody in, but I think just as a buffer, I would consider bringing in a veteran just to
Yeah.
kind of push him a little bit. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? Because you never want to let the guy get too comfortable. I know people don't really care for their mental psyche type of jaw jacking games that goes on,
Hmm.
but I think just from a safety standpoint, just a safety net
Hmm.
standpoint, just in case you never know what could happen, you got
Right.
to bring a veteran in, to sit there and push him and the guy have that mindset coming in saying, hey, more than likely you're going to be the backup, and
Hmm.
we need you to help develop this kid and not necessarily try to beat him into the ground and not be a guy that can help him and be help him along the way. So I think that's kind of where I am with Desmond Ridder as we get ready to go into the last game of the season.
And I think that's such a critical point because obviously last year was a little bit different. They bring in Marcus Mariota with him knowing that, hey, you have every opportunity to be the starter here, right? And
Right.
of course, people's instant reaction was, well, there is Ryan Tannehill out there. But no, 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 because Ryan Tannehill told you at the beginning of this season that he wasn't in it to be helping Malik Willis. So do you think he's
Not at
going to help
all.
Desmond Ritter along? No, he's coming here thinking he's QB1. So I don't know
Mhm.
that he would necessarily be the fit, regardless of his relationship with Arthur Smith. I agree with you. I think it has to be a veteran who is comfortable with being the second option because he's likely going to be that. And
Right.
also comfortable knowing, hey, but I can jump in when I need to jump in, sort of like a Nick Foles. When Nick Foles
Right.
was
Yeah.
in Philadelphia, he knew he was the backup, but knew he was ready to be QB1 when needed, and also was willing to give Carson Wentz what he needed in order for Carson Wentz to become who he became, right? So you do
Right.
need that guy. And I think we all agree that, hey, right now the Falcons are at number 7. Who knows what might happen next week? They may jump up, they may go down, but I doubt it. I'm thinking 7 or above. I don't think they're going to drop any lower than 7. And if that's the case, I'm still screaming to the top of the rafters. D lineman, defensive player, edge rusher, D lineman, defensive player, edge rusher. I'm still screaming that all day, every
We'll
day.
just
No matter.
rotate it. Like, all right,
Exactly.
here we
I'm thinking
go.
it's going to
Edge
be a
rusher.
rotation. Yep.
Defensive line.
Every day. In
Edge
fact,
rusher.
guys, what I'm going to do so you don't have to hear my mouth about it, I'm just going to put a sign here right by my Falcons jersey, and it's just going to have random defensive player, random defensive player. random dispenser player. You're
Yes.
never going to hear from me again. But anyway, if you guys want to hear something good all day, every day that we love to tell you guys about, it's of course built.com. Because when you have situations like what the heck Georgia put us through on Saturday night, then the Hawks turned around and put us through Monday night. You got to have that kind of snack that's going to be healthy for you when you need something and you are stressed out. So, as always, check out built.com. That's where you can get your built bars and those cool little puffs that have 100% chocolate. And that 100% chocolate is interesting because, hey, if you're a chocolate lover, hey, you love it. But also, if you're looking for something that has easy solubility for proteins, you're going to get 15 grams of protein that easily goes through your system. And that really does give you the energy that you're going to need for Wednesday night when the Hawks take on the Kings, or next Monday when Georgia faces TCU. Now, if you put in the Locked On 15 code, you're going to get 15% off that first order. And again, Jarvis and I were going to talk a little bit about our goals for 2023. And one of them, of course, is for us to stay healthy. So we like Built Bars because that'll give you only 160 calories per bar. Check them out. Built.com, Locked On 15 for your 15% off. Now, Jarvis, it's interesting because one of the things that we know we talked about last week and even today is the evaluation process. So not just
Right.
a QB1, but even at other positions as well. Interesting decision that the Buccaneers have made already. They clinched the NFC South yesterday, on Sunday rather, and actually made the statement, hey, we're going to still play our starters. So I was thinking to myself, now that's interesting, depending on which side of the fence you sit on, but what should the Falcons do? I mean, should they play their starters and their players as well? If not, who should they actually sit?
To be honest with you, everybody need to play. I don't see no
Right.
everybody need to play. And only the first person that came to mind, which I may consider not
Mhm.
playing, is maybe Grady Jarrett. I don't know,
Sure.
but I'm not the person that's gonna have that conversation. And I'm sure
Right.
Arthur Smith don't want to have that conversation. Hey man, go ahead and sit out this season and come
Right.
back next year. No, it's not gonna work like that. I think everybody needs to play because that's the what he's trying to build in the locker room. Arthur Smith, that is, as far as type of culture, right? Getting some
Yeah.
wins, like because Arthur Smith can care less about a draft position. They don't care about
No.
what it means to if they were to win, if they drop out of the top 10, if they get a win against the Buccaneers.
Right.
I don't even think that's even possible at this point.
Nope.
But
Not.
I think those are some of the things that you want to be able to establish. Not
Mhm.
necessarily momentum going into next year, but
Right.
seeing getting the quarterback getting another win up under his belt. I think that's something that's going to be able to you're going to be able to establish. And I think that you want to be able to, from an evaluation standpoint, right? So we
Mhm.
saw Matt Hennessy at the left guard spot.
Mhm.
Yeah, do they bring him back? Is that a guy that, hey, we might like what we see at this left
Yeah.
guard spot right here, and that might be something that might be a priority for us in the draft or in free
Mhm.
agency.
Yeah.
So all those things come into play when you start thinking about, okay, from a roster construction standpoint, because you got a lot of 1-year guys that you're
Yep.
going to have to really seriously consider bringing back. You're talking
Sure.
about Rashawn Evans. Are you going to bring him back?
Lorenzo
I talk
Carter.
about
Yeah.
Lorenzo Carter. All those guys are on 1-year deal. So this
Mhm.
is something. This is going to be an evaluation period, not only for the Falcons, but for these guys as individuals.
Yeah.
They might be for your next team because the Falcons,
Right.
regardless of how you play the Falcons, might be like, yeah, you know what, we're good, and you're gonna have to put some good film out there for your next team. So I think it's going to be a lot of evaluation going on in this last game, and I
Mhm.
think that the most important one for the Atlanta Falcons is to continue to see that progression from Desmond Ridder and being able to spread the ball around, be able to make throws when it's money time on third and fourth downs, and be able to get a win at the end of the day.
Yeah. And to that point, I definitely don't want to see anybody on the offense except maybe Cordero Patterson, and not even really sit, but maybe use lightly. We'll say it that way.
Yeah,
Because there's been pretty much their version of load management on him, at least from a practice perspective, the entire
indeed.
season. But the rest of that offense, yeah, you got to have him in place because ultimately, if you want Desmond Ridder to show even more growth and progression from game 3 to game 4, like we saw in the first 3 games, then you absolutely need to give him the opportunity to have his first string weapons out there so that he has every tool in the toolkit to use for himself, including Tyler Allgeier.
Yes.
Unbelievable back half of the season that he has had. I mean, Jarvis, you want
Yes.
to talk about QB1, but let's keep it real and talk about RB1. And yeah, we
Woo.
know Cordero Patterson was an absolute beast to begin the season, But when you're talking about the future, isn't it exciting that for once you're not actually having a conversation? I mean, we keep having the edge rushers conversation, interior lineman conversation. We're not really having a convo saying that the Falcons have to draft an RB1. Like,
Yeah,
man,
I think it's pretty clear. It's pretty clear. Tyler Algier is the
yeah,
guy, and I think that actually works out in Cordell Patterson's favor, right?
yeah,
Because he doesn't have to be leaned on to be the RB1 at this age. So I think there's value there where you can move around Cordell Patterson, have him be targeted in the passing game a little bit more. So I think that kind of opens up the offense a little bit more
yeah,
for Arthur Smith, and that's what he's talked about, being able to be more balanced, right? Because you know what you can be able to bring to the table from a rushing standpoint. Can you pass the ball with balance? Because everybody, a lot of times the people having the opposite conversation. Like,
yeah,
okay, people pass the ball so much they got to be able to run the ball a little bit.
right.
So, and you saw the Falcons struggle with that with Matt Ryan's last year with his
Hmm.
team. So I think all of those things come into play, and with a guy like Tyler Algier coming along like he is, it's
Hmm.
going to do nothing but benefit the Falcons, and
Yeah.
it's going to benefit the 30-year-old running back as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. And listen, these are the kinds of things that we'll continue to watch because you guys know we started talking about our evaluations even last week. So we'll continue to kind of dig into that, especially as we hear more from Arthur Smith when he begins to talk about the Falcons installing their game plan for Sunday. Now, you guys, we appreciate you rocking with us, especially coming back in the new year. Happy New Year to you guys as well. But don't forget to rock with our guys at Locked On Sports today because, of course, they give you immediate reaction from big games. Like, of course, who was it? Was it Damian Lillard who scored 71 last night? Like, oh, Donovan
Ooh,
Mitchell?
Donovan Mitchell, yeah,
Donovan Mitchell.
71,
Yeah. So you
71
know they're
points.
going to give you guys a
Ooh,
reaction on that because we hadn't seen that in the
goodness.
month of Sundays since the passing of the late, great Kobe Bryant, who did it all those years ago. So I know they're going to be talking about that. And of course, and we're going to talk a little bit about it briefly in our next segment, but of course, they'll be giving you guys reaction to what we saw in the Bills Bengals game last night with Damar Hamlin. So they'll give you their take on it. Any updates, any real time updates, they will definitely share that with you. So be sure to check out Locked On Sports today after you check out ATL Day Ones at YouTube, on the Odyssey app, or wherever you download your podcast.